Hello, welcome to episode 1 of my Yakistan in Flames campaign in Fistful of Toes 3. This is a solo campaign I am playing to further familiarize the audience with the rules and explore easy to build campaigns to inspire fellow wargamers. The Yakistani state is central in a region formed from former Soviet states that exploded following the Union's downfall. Ever since the Wars of Independence, the US and her allies have invested large sums of money to keep the region stabilized, and peace has been the status quo for nearly 40 years. Recently, though, while foreign money dried up and interest shifted elsewhere, the nation of Yakistan looked to her neighbors to fuel her revival, striking in all directions. Soldiers take everything not bolted down, and most things that are. Captured materials are hauled to refineries, construction equipment is brought back by truck to be repurposed in Yaki highway construction, and anything electronic makes its way through a dizzying bureaucracy to either be repurposed or sold off online to Eastern buyers. The Yakistan state itself is a delicate balance of generals and princes. While their local resource extraction schemes have created untold wealth for the country, a substantial portion of Yakistan's budget is allocated to public works demanded by the princes or a rapidly expanding military brought on by the generals. Following this explosion of violence and looting, the U.S. has deployed two Striker Combat Team brigades to move on the capital and restore stability to the region. While more well-equipped units are tied up elsewhere, it is hoped that the brunt of the Yakistani army has been pulled away from the capital as well. On the political side, the initial few days of the attack have been fruitless for U.S. forces. Quick reaction force units have been ambushed, and a large majority of the standing equipment is damaged. Either through retaliation or in a communications breakdown, U.S. forces have been clearing the Yakistanis and built up areas with artillery fires. Now the American public is united in either protesting the deaths of Americans in the country or the rampant destruction they brought with them. The U.S. brings with it two Striker brigades, light vehicles, engineering and artillery support. They are of good quality, having just come from a rotation in the National Training Center and having been doing drills with the Eutropians. While equipment, maintenance, and recovery logistics chains are strong, High Command is reluctant to pour more troops into the area as reinforcements. Coverage of troops being lost could turn a tactical success into a media disaster. The Yakistanis have been largely formed around their close training partner, Egypt. While the princes have splurged on acquiring fancy anti-tank weaponry and vehicles, the leg infantry suffer from a lack of proper combat training beyond their daily duties in boot camp. The TOW anti-tank weaponry is reportedly supplied by Egypt, although it is suspected that the Yakistanis have acquired and built a manufacturing base locally. In addition, it is known that they have acquired a small number of T-72 tanks and a fair number of BMP armored personnel carriers, but these are expected to be extremely limited since the country has been internationally condemned for their actions. The infantry, however, are cheap to train and equip. Now that foreign troops are on their soil, Yaqui nationals are flooding into recruitment drives to fight their invaders. Despite the U.S.'s reliance on air power, the whole region is a massive anti-aircraft net. Yakistan's few remaining aircraft are striking in the Northwest Territories. All U.S. air activity has been limited to the Gulf to avoid Radakan and Eutropian AAA batteries. In previous years, American and regional aircraft have been lost to these batteries, so air operations are heavily restricted to keep the conflict from spilling further. The territory this campaign takes place in is a roughly 50-mile or 85-kilometer stretch of land leading from the mouth of Quotami Mountain Pass to the eastern capital city of Poxy. Currently, U.S. forces are staged on the highway, while a dispersed force of Yakistanis holds the pass and valley outskirts. In order to win, the U.S. must drive the Yaquis from the highway to open it to logistics for 5 victory points. Making entry into the city and capturing HVTs will net 10 victory points. Destroying a company of BMPs will net 1 victory point, and a company of T-72 tanks will net 2 victory points. It is a tough task, but it will prevent the Yakistanis from using this equipment to aggressively attack its neighbors once the US presence is gone. The Yakistanis must hold the Americans outside of the city for 5 victory points. By destroying 1 brigade of American infantry, they hope to turn the populace against the offensive and drag them to negotiations for 10 victory points. For each stand that fails to be reconstituted after the battle, the Yakistanis score 1 victory point. The U.S. plans to smash through the Yakistani line and maintain the initiative before they can establish defensive positions and bring up armored vehicles from the city. While a bit crude, a highway dash has worked in previous campaigns, and High Command wants to capitalize on the strikers' speed and flexibility. The Yakistanis plan to perform a holding action at the pass and then set up a large defensive line in the valley while armor support is brought up. The generals have kicked around hopeful ideas of using requisitioned trucks to perform flanking maneuvers in the harsh mountains around the highway. The princes must stay in the capital for a week to keep up appearances to the public and to continue futile negotiations with world powers, but plan to evacuate if the Americans draw too close. Our story now begins at the peak of the mountain pass, where Yakistani forces lie in wait for the American onslaught.